Hi, my name is Jason Courtemanche. I'm on the data management team at KETIV, and we're going to talk about XREFs and what you need to know when using AutoCAD XREFs with Vault. So there's a few things that we need to think about before we start loading files into Vault, AutoCAD files into XREFs. And I'm going to open up a few examples and we'll take a look. So the first thing is that if we have so just sort of kind of a recap. So in Vault, we have a working folder. If we copy our AutoCAD files and XREFs into the working folder, so we can see I have a subfolder, I have a file and XREF in the same folder. And I'll open them up, we'll check them into Vault. We'll see that because the XREF and the CAD file are in the same subfolder, they're going to get checked in together. And this might be what we want if these two files are kind of related to the same project. But if we're going to have multiple files referencing the same XREF, like let's say a title block, we wouldn't want the XREF in the same project file. We'd want it somewhere else. So we'll talk about the library file in a moment. So when I open up the second project, we'll see that this XREF is already basically a folder lower. And this is something that happens very common. So if I were to, let's say, create a new file, XREFs, and I want to add an XREF from my standard XREF library prior to using Vault. So if I want to come to my XREF panel, I'll just come in here and I'll browse to my XREF library. So let's say my XREF library is on a network share. And so the XREF is outside of the working folder because we know that my working folder is C_Vault, and I'm referencing to a network location. When this happened, if I were to check in the file into Vault, so I make a new subfolder. I go to check in this new file. I'm referencing an XREF that's outside of the working folder. And when you do this, Vault is going to automatically create a subfolder called XREF, and it's going to put the XREF file there. So I click OK. And most of the time we don't really want this, because think about it, like if I'm going to load 1,000 AutoCAD files and they're all XREF in a block, I don't want 1,000 copies of the block library to be basically loaded. I don't want the same file loaded in Vault 1,000 times under, and every project folder to have a subfolder called XREF and then have the library file there. And so the way that we get around this, because we don't want duplicate copies of files, we can come up to this top level, we can create a library folder, we'll call it XREF. And then the most important step is that we come down here and go to details, and we need to basically add the shared path. And so if we don't know what the shared path is, we can go back to AutoCAD and we can look at the XREF. So we can see that the XREF path changed after checking it in. So let's make a new file. Let's reference the same library location, same file, and we can see that this time it's a new file we haven't checked in Vault. So we can see what the actual path is right here. And so we can copy this path, go back to the Vault, paste it in, and we don't need the actual block, but we do need the folder information. Now click OK. And the nice thing is that once we create a library file and we tell Vault what the path is, now anytime we check in a AutoCAD file that's referencing a XREF outside of the working folder, Vault will know where to put this file. Okay, so we'll let it generate a number. We'll make a new project subfolder. We'll click Save. We can see that now the XREF file is going to the library folder and not a subfolder within the project folder. And so now I can click OK. The file goes to the right spot, and then the library file goes to the library subfolder. And this helps us basically keep us from only basically putting one copy of an XREF file or a title block. And now we can have hundreds or thousands of files referencing this one block, which is what we want. It's a good idea to control. So it's a good idea when you're setting up a library file like this to also maybe add file-based life cycles to it. Because if you have hundreds or thousands or more files referencing this block, if I change this block, next time I open up any of those files that reference this file, we'll see the changes. And so sometimes we want that, sometimes we don't. It's really good to, whether it's through file-based security or folder-based security, make it so that only power users can modify library files so that you don't accidentally make a change that affects hundreds or thousands of files. If you need any help configuring your libraries or loading your data into Vault, let us know. We're here to help. If you have a lot of XREFs, sometimes it's better to spend the time and first load your XREFs and get everything the way that you want. That way you know that you have the right security, the right files-based lifecycle, and then you can bulk load all your files. And if you run into any issues, we're here to help.